Hey guys, I'll give it just a minute here. All right, I'm just going to turn some lights on and we'll get started. Be right back. All right. How's it going, everybody? Let's see. All right, I just sent Critter the link to be able to get on. They got archery league tonight, so um, he was going to try and break away to come and chat with us. Let's see. Well, that ain't partying that we want to see. There's my buddy Ray. How's it going, Ray? Did you get all your bite meats put back together yet? Or put together, I should say. Well, we can start chatting, and then when Critter gets in, we'll let him in. He'll show up here in the studio on my end, and we'll go from there. But thanks for joining, everybody. Um, Ray got some bite me's, and he's got to put them together, and he says no, they're still in his truck. You can pay Eli. Eli's got them figured out. I had to get him to do all mine. All right, so I guess let's kind of get started. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening, ice conditions. weather and all that kind of crazy stuff, and then we'll kind of get into the fishing report. Um, so as far as conditions go, Lake Poygan has a lot of ice where there is ice. The biggest thing is obviously, the map that I've uploaded to my page. I know a bunch of people have shared that. I kind of updated it today with some of the new cracks that formed with that really cold weather. Anytime we get that, big cold, the lake has to grow and it has to move, and a couple of new cracks formed, and some pretty good shoves actually. Definitely would definitely wreck the front end of your vehicle if you hit it, going pretty fast. So just use caution. Drive slow. You really don't want to be going very fast anyway right now, because with this glare ice, by the time you see something, if you're going too fast, you're not stopping, and you'll end up right in the drink. That's pretty much what happened to the guy last weekend out on Poygan. They were just driving too fast and seeing the open water. It was too late, and he ended up like 30 yards into the drink. So just be smart. Use common sense. The open water is something crazy. I've talked to a lot of people the last few weeks, and young and old, and some scientist guys that might have an answer. And there's really no explanation of anything short of, maybe it was a small spring that had opened up. But in the beginning, they were all small spots. And then that wind, every day last week, it was blowing 30, 40 miles an hour gusts. And that don't take much to erode ice. Heck, I even got these little aerators that plug into the side of my flasher. You drop it down a hole, and it can be 0 outside, and that hole will grow. And that 8-inch hole, by the end of the day, if that aerator sits in there, is 10 to 12 inches. So water running over the top of ice, doesn't matter how cold it is. When there's that much wind, it just eats it and eats it and eats it, and pretty soon it's just, the bigger it gets, the more water it can push, and the more water that pushes, the more ice it eats. And it just kind of was a snowball effect, and really ate away at the lake here. And not only out in front of County Landing and Nofke's, but that spot over on the west end, I would go over there and just check that just to see what was going on. And that grew substantially. It actually went backwards a little bit too, kind of opened up all the way to the shoreline, out in front of the Pine River, and the pumpkin seed, and that whole shoreline really opened up and just really, really grew. And a lot of people don't realize, like off of Nofke's especially, when I was out there, Tim did have the tree line going straight out of his place yet. I don't know if he was going to cut those trees down or lay them down, but if you're going to go off of Nofke's, and you're going to go out in the dark, which I just don't recommend to anybody if you don't know where you're going or what you're doing, first timers going out. You probably want to wait until it gets a little light out so you can see. Or if you know somebody, and you want to follow somebody, do the buddy system, that's one thing you can do too. But the biggest thing is if you're going to go off of Nofke's, come off the landing and immediately turn right. Follow that shoreline down about 100 yards, and then start heading north. And once you get north, a quarter mile, and from there, then you can pretty much go anywhere you want to. Now, the new cracks, I didn't see any water by them, but the shoves, it really heaved and pushed a lot of ice up over the top. So going over the top of it, if you're heading, I guess you'd be heading west. You'll see it because it's a giant ledge. But then coming back, obviously, it's just a giant step. So that one's a little bit harder to see because it's not really all busted up. It's just a nice, thick, clean sheet of ice that rode up over the top of another section. The main crack that goes east and west that people have been jumping, Tim was going out there today to mark and try and fix a bridge or do something to help get over the top of that. But that one really grew too. There were some spots that were, I'd have to say a good 3 to 4 feet up in the air. Really heaved up. So even with, snowmobile, you're not really crossing that crack unless you got somebody that can bust a bunch of it down. I do know some guys with trucks were trying to, but it was a little too cold to sit out there and watch. But, it's a little bit longer of a drive. If you go out towards Nofke's and you go to where the bridge used to be, or you'll see the crack. If you follow that crack, once you hit it all the way west, just stay, 20, 30 yards off the crack and follow it all the way down. And it'll make a turn to the right towards the north or the northwest, I guess, towards Indian Point. And just as it makes that turn, it dies. And there's a whole big area that is flattened out. That's where I had been crossing, pulling the shacks and stuff. And I know vehicles and that have been driving over the top of that. It is a little bit further of a drive to get around it, but it is very doable. A lot better than trying to jump the cracks, out in front of Nofke's there. Fishing asks if the tree line out of the duck. I have not seen a tree line out of the duck in as of this morning. That doesn't mean they didn't put something in this afternoon, but they did not have anything out this morning at all. Now you can drive from the duck in all the way out to the horseshoe, no problem. There's nothing standing in the way. Really flat, clear, super smooth sailing. And a lot of guys have actually been fishing up in front of the mouth of the river and stuff too. And there really is no current. People are asking, talking about these open spots, is it current? Is it, ducks or spring? Nobody knows. But I can tell you it's not the current, and people were saying, the dam up by Shawano is going to make it hard on the ice. I've been up in the mouth of the river and there's hardly any current up there. There's, 14, 15 inches of ice up right at the mouth of the river and probably about 10 inches to a foot, even in that deep hole right at the mouth of the river. So a lot of ice up there, very little current, and nothing's really getting eaten away, from that. So, guess is as good as mine. The fact that it hasn't froze 15 below zero and it still stayed open. I know the wind plays a part in that, but boy, you look at Green Bay and some of the other bigger bodies of water that have froze with that little bit of wind that we had, and then you've got just a tiny little spot on Poygan that hasn't froze. Something else is going on. There's some really warm water, or something is keeping those spots open. Now I did notice today, when I went out, it did start to cap over. I'd say about 2/3 of it was iced over out in front of the county landing. And what really scared me about that is where the new ice was that met the old ice, it was very, very hard to tell the difference, short of a white ring around where the open water is. I hate to say it, but if I was a betting man, I have a feeling there's going to be some guys finding those spots this weekend. Hopefully not, but we'll have to see what's going on. Earl said there was a tree line out from the duck in last Saturday when I was out there, unless they removed it. I don't remember seeing a tree line from the duck in. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I don't know where it went from to where, but I don't ever remember seeing the tree line from the duck. So again, just be smart, be safe. I don't know if I'd even recommend going off the county landing, because that water had opened up little spots past the actual open water itself, because it was eroding the ice underneath and then opening up spots, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet away. There were little, bubbles or pockets that were starting to open. And now that those, capped over, um, you don't want to take the risk of dropping a tire in or finding one of those holes because it will eat a machine. That is for certain. And then you got all the same spots by Spruce, off of Spruce to the left and to the right. There are, it's kind of like a little channel of springs there that are open, and those two have just kind of started to cap over, but not fully, tightened up. Those would be easy to find and wouldn't take long to eat a machine there too. So. Okay, so John says the Sportsman Club said they had one out. And again, I didn't. I either didn't pay attention or I just couldn't see. It was blowing so hard and cold and stuff with my goggles on. I was kind of just worrying about what was right in front of me versus looking at the lake. I primarily hadn't been fishing to the east of the crack here the last few days. We've been more back in, towards Norwegian Bay and the mouth of the river. And I didn't pay attention or really see if that tree line came all the way to the mouth of the river. Normally, they'll meet it up with Nofkes. And I was either blind or I didn't see one that met up with Nofkes at all. As far as getting off of Captain's, you guys are driving trucks. Guys are driving trucks pretty much everywhere. A lot of half tons. I have seen a couple 3/4 tons. I would not. If you have a 3/4 ton diesel, our truck. Those trucks weigh about 8,000 pounds versus a standard half ton that weighs about 5,000. So we got another 3,000 pounds on them. They recommend 16 to 19 inches for something of that size. Doesn't mean that you can't. I mean, I've seen quite a few of them out there, even out on Bago too. Some big heavy trucks driving around. I'm just not there yet. I'll refrain. But out in front of Captain's Cove, you've got a lot of guys, pike fishing and trying for perch and stuff. There's a bunch of shacks in that back in the corner. But from there out to the main lake, the only way you would be able to get out there is if you actually went all the way to shore on the south shore and then drove over the crack by the shore. And again, I don't know how much it opened or closed the last few days. I hadn't been in there. But that crack goes all the way in. So really, if you're going off of Captain's, the only spot you can really fish is right there in Captain, out in front of the resort. You're not going to be able to get out too far, towards Indian Point or towards the north side of the lake because you got all that open water that's right there too. So again, you're really limited over off of Captain's. Off of Pony Creek, I had some guys ask if they could get to the main lake from Pony Creek. That is a negative. The crack from Indian Point that runs there all the way to the open water is pretty substantial. There's a lot of open working areas that are wet and some open spots yet and some really high shoves. And then it kind of spider webs a little bit back in there too, out more from the pine. There's a bunch of cracks that kind of spider webbed, and that's really where that first open water spot kind of started, was in that crack area, and then it just never closed up. Off of Tustin, you can get out into the bay there, but again, you're only going to be able to go as far as what that crack is, and you're going to stop. Off of Alder Creek, some guys are coming off of Alder, and they are that crack that runs up in Norwegian Bay is it kind of dies out up by the mansion. If people don't know what that is, there's a giant house that kind of just sits on the shoreline there. And that crack dies out up into there, just past where that old East Channel Canes used to be. And from there, you can come off of Alder, drive the shoreline towards the mouth of the river, and then snake or take a hard right to the main lake, or head towards the Duck Inn. So that's kind of your options. Off of Spruce, I just if you really don't know that area, I would definitely stay away from Spruce Lane. You take a four-wheeler or snowmobile and such off of that, even kind of scares me because all those spots are going to have, an inch, inch and a half of ice on them, and everything looks the same because it's all, clear, hard ice. So if you are going off of there, make sure you know what you're doing, or go out during the daylight and kind of just test everything and use your judgment. If your gut's telling you something's wrong, don't do it. I've learned that the hard way. Let's see. Okay, so I just must not have seen it. With it being cold and really going out in the dark and coming back in the dark. I just must have missed it. They do say that there's a tree line from the duck inn that goes out towards the middle of Norwegian Bay, kind of same spot that they ended every year. So that if that helps anything, that the guys going out, you can follow the tree line. Justin's got some more. Everybody's getting tip ups. Ray's got 6. Justin's up to I think 10 now. We're definitely getting these guys sold on the boxes. They definitely put more fish on the ice this year with this cold weather and clear ice. We really need to get some snow to help the jig bites pick back up. And excuse me. And not only that, but just these fish are so spooky. I can tell you, fishing the boxes here, fishing tip-ups, we'd get a box, we'd walk up to it, and if we didn't have creepers on, or somebody didn't have creepers on, the spool would just, be normal. But if I walked up to it and I had creepers and the guy was still fighting a fish, and I'd get close to him, I'd get within 10 feet of that box, and the reel would just start zinging because of us spooking the fish. You got to remember, we're super clear ice. You've got high skies, bright blue, sunny days, and no snow on the ice. Fishing in 4 to 5 feet of water. Those fish can see everything that you're doing, and not only that, but they can hear everything you're doing. So if you are going out to Poygan, my recommendation, if you're looking to catch some fish, although we are getting a little bit of snow cover here tonight, be curious to see if we get enough just to put some white spots on the lake. But with the wind blowing, I'm sure it'll probably blow a lot of it mostly off. But anyway. If you're going to be out there, do the tip-up thing, spread them out. Put them out as far away from people and away from you as you can. One thing I will say about how the bite has been on Poygan is I really haven't seen much for big schools of fish like in years past. But I think that's because there's not a lot of people that have been fishing. Even some of the busiest Saturdays, this year has been very, very minimal as far as people. I think because of the good ice out on Winnebago, the lot of people are out there fishing because it's been so many years since we've been able to really safely get out there. So with the lack of pressure on Poygan, it's nice because when you find a pod of fish, now granted, they're not going to be super bunched tight up. They're going to be here, when you're looking at the 360. But that's what I like, especially when you've got a bunch of tip-ups that you can just set up with a group of people and just pluck them off, one at a time all the way around you. And if you do that, just stay quiet. Don't be running around. And all of a sudden, let's just say the bite kind of slows down. Believe it or not, jump on a UTV or car or whatever and do a couple donuts around your spread and wake the fish up, and pretty soon, we call them fish drives. You spook some fish up and get them moving around. That's when they're, the nice thing is when they're not pressured, they will feed, they will eat, and then they kind of go into just a dormant mode, and they're not swimming around real fast like you would normally see, when you got 200-300 people up in a tight spot. So it is a good bite. We found that rosy reds have been working really well. You know, the larger rosies have been working well for walleyes, and then the emerald shiners too. You know, we talk about it all the time. Is the sinker to your treble hook is kind of a major player when it comes time to catching fish. And just going to tell you kind of what's been working for us is I've been using a really heavy sinker to kind of pin the line down and then keeping about a good foot or so, 12 to 15 inches of line from my treble to that sinker. And that minnow's been able to, you know, really go up and down, but I'm also keeping it, you know, about an inch or two up off bottom. So if the minnow does happen to touch bottom, you know, it might shiver up some dust and, you know, make some fish curious too. But it also allows them to kind of run away and, you know, see if the fish really want to, you know, chase and eat. But that's kind of been working great for us. Rosies are the emeralds. There, I think on Saturday we did put up a couple boxes that were high, and we got a couple fish doing that as well. But we were also, I know, coming off of a full moon phase last week. That bite was pretty tough. We noticed that it obviously picked up further away we got from the full moon. Let's go back. I know we've seen a bunch of questions here. The Fish Light Classic Rock. So what are these boxes and do you sell them? Bruce, yes, Bite Me box tip-ups. I do see the boys, Rick or Terry, are on here. Hi, guys. They put a link up there. And then two, I think it's Bluegill 10. I'll type that out. Is a discount code. If you order them on their site, type that in, you'll save some money. Ray, round is a shape. Hey, then I'm open water on Poigan. Have you thought about taking a temp reading and comparing to other parts of the lake? So, Kurt, you know, I've thought about it, yes, but I haven't taken, you know, I haven't had my spud bar out because we've been driving the machines. With how that wind has eroded the ice, I don't know how close you could really get because it's so undermined all the way around from the wind that I'd have probably a good chance. I think we'd be falling in before we'd even get to it. So I don't want to have to check the temperature, you know, holding a thermometer in my hand, standing on the bottom. But yeah. He said, I always thought fish dries were Dad's way of getting me out of the shack for a while. No, that fish drives work, especially when you don't have a bunch of people driving around pushing them around. It definitely gets them fired back up, and every time we do it, we get a few flags. Jeff asks, does Critters have emerald shiners? Yes, Critters will have everything stocked up pretty good. He'll have all the minnows. He'll have waxworms, spikes. The baits that we've been using. Definitely stop in there, and he'll give you the lowdown on what's happening. Let's see. Yeah, Clarity's been really good out on the lake. The lake is very, very clear. I haven't seen much, for dirt. Even with this wind, I figured we'd find some dirty water, and the water's really clear for all things considered. But you got to remember too is you've got sunlight penetrating, and photosynthesis clears up all the water. And that sunlight on that clear ice really helps keep things clear too. So we really need to get some snow. Snow and the warmer, a little bit warmer weather, some actual fishable weather would be nice. All right, so let's still waiting for Critter to get in. He was gonna try and get in, like say he had archery tonight too. So hopefully he can get in here with us. The Out on Bago, we've got all the bridges are all off of Merritt. They've got 3 or 4 car bridges out, and I think 3 or 4 ATV bridges. But once you get off of Merritt, you'll see, they've got ATV bridges are green, and the big bridges are blue. They do have the donation boxes and stuff, and the beacons on them too, so you should be able to see them. Lots of ice out on Bago. It is smooth sailing, clear again. No, not really much for snow. As I came off tonight, there were some drifts starting to form from the snow that was happening out there. I guess the name of the game out on Winnebago right now is just a smorgasbord of everything. A lot of white bass, a lot of really big white bass, perch, walleyes, kind of all mixed in. They're pretty aggressive. I forget, it's been a few years since we've really concentrated on Bago because of the poor ice and not moving the shocks over there. And it is a lot more fun to catch fish in 20 feet of water than 3 and 4 feet of water. It's nice to have the rod bend and actually get a bunch of fish jigging versus just chasing tip ups. But the tip ups are doing great out there too. The perch bite. The perch and walleye seem to be more on the tip ups, and the white bass seem to be more on jigs. Spoons, the standards: hammered gold, hammered nickel, hammered copper. Cloudy days using nickel, sunny days using gold or the copper. You can use the copper on cloudy, cloudy and sunny days really, but. Again, not tipping them with anything. Let the baits, do the work. And then as far as tip ups out there, the thing with Winnebago and tip up fishing is you've got more to play with, more areas to try. You can spread out your boxes. Typically the fish aren't as spooked out there because you've got deeper water. But this year with no snow yet and that bright clear ice, they're really, really spooky out on Winnebago as well. Varying your baits, when you're jigging, everything jigging on Bago, is typically up, I'd say 7 to 10 feet up off bottom, around in there is where I like to, just constantly jig my baits. If I see fish down on the bottom, sure, I'll drop it down there. But for the most part, I'm keeping my baits, pretty high, middle of the water column type area, and then letting the fish come up. If the fish are hungry, that water's pretty clear. They're going to come up and chase. If they're just cruising the bottom, that's all they're doing. It's really hard to get those bottom dwellers to turn and bite. Sometimes you can, but if they have any interest, if you're up above them, they are going to come and snap at you. So, if you're down too far and you're not jigging, in that center of the water column where the active fish are feeding, especially the walleyes, those walleyes never see your bait if it's below them. So that's one thing to keep in mind too, is just keep your baits up and keep them suspended. And you can always drop down, but you can't bring it up, or the fish aren't going to see it. So you just want to make sure that you keep your baits a little bit higher. Most of the fish, today, a lot of white bass, but I had tried the gold, hammered gold, I don't know, the Acme, or the shiver minnows, the hammered gold shiver minnow that Acme has, and dropped that down there. I grabbed a few of them today to try them, and dropped it down there, had a mark come in, chased me a little bit, and then absolutely smashed it, fought it for a while, and dumb me, I never checked my leader or anything to make sure there were no frays. It was a giant walleye, probably like 26 inches, and just getting her up, hit her head on the bottom of the hole. She freaked out, and dunk, it was gone. So again, another tidbit is make sure you're checking your leaders, check your knots. Don't make a stupid mistake. First time I dropped down the hole, $7 bait, gone. So we'll try again tomorrow. Justin, I love a spoon bite. I love the aggressiveness of a spoon, jigging hard and making them chase. That's my kind of go-to. But some days they want the minnows. And one thing I'll say too, when you're out on Winnebago is, out on Poigan, you're using a lot of number twos, number threes, smaller stuff. When we get out to Winnebago, I pull out the big guns. And, I'm using quarter-ounce slender spoons, number 5, pimples, bigger baits. For some reason, they just like those bigger profile baits out on Winnebago. I don't know if it's because, there's more water for them to see, or I don't know. It's always been that way, and it doesn't mean I don't catch fish on Poigan on big baits, but it just seems like they prefer the big baits out on Winnebago versus on Poigan. So no live bait. Putting live bait on the tip ups, but just fishing bare spoons, bare pimples, and slender spoons. The what's that other one? The Tangler spoon, I think it is, from VMC. The nice thing I like about those are the little flashers that they have on them. I know in the past, I think last year I was showing you guys, I like to add the little Colorado blades to my split rings on my pimples just to give it that little bit of extra flash. Anything helps, and it definitely has worked good for me. Ray, precious metals, baby, all day, every day. Absolutely. Casey asks, how's the night bite? Casey, the night bite on Poigan is typically good. If you're a nighttime guy, you like to go set up tip ups for some walleyes at night, absolutely. Obviously during the full moon, the fish are pretty actively feeding. But Poigan's always had a really good night bite. You find the walleyes, and it tends to see, catch fish, the midday bite's always good. That's kind of been my favorite. That 10 to 1 o'clock has been a hot bite this year. And then it kind of goes dead till about 3, 4 o'clock, and then, from there until dusk. And then it'll stop for a while. And then typically, you give it another, 3, 4 hours, and you get, to that 9, 10 o'clock, 9 to 11, the bite will pick up again. And then typically, that 3 o'clock in the morning, and then again right at sunlight. So Poigan's a fun spot to go and fish with lighted tip-ups. The problem is when you get a good bite, 3 fish or 6 fish or whatever, unless you're just going to catch and release all night long, once you get your 3, you're done. So unless you got a big group of guys, sometimes it doesn't pay to go out there and get everything all set up for three fish. And typically, we've had it happen, this year. You get 9 to a dozen boxes set up, and you got a limit of fish on the ice, and just a matter of a couple hours, even if that. So all depends on what you want to do. If you're just want to go out and catch and release, that's a great way to spend an evening, in my opinion. Justin, pounding the white bass with the clown jigging wrap. Yep, the clown jigging wrap never fails. That's been a great bait over the years on the Winnebago system. Let's see. Any more questions? Well, I think we got everybody answered. Well, I guess Critter, let me just text him and see if he wanted to join or what he was going to do. Let's see. I'll invite him. Critter, if you're watching, I just sent you over a link. Okay, we'll see if he can, if he gets it or not. All right, how can you land big sturgeon? That's user error there. Tim says tree line off Wentz, put out today heading east and another road heading north. Yeah, out on Bago, it's been a long, long time since we've seen ice, like what we have. It's smooth. There really isn't much for cracks out in the lake. I have a feeling that with the warm up this weekend, anytime you have a cold stretch like what we did, and then it gets warm, the ice pops someplace. It has to. It has to go someplace. It's been growing, 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 and then you get a little bit of a warm up. It's going to pop. So where and when, that's to be determined. So you always got to keep that in the back of your mind, and just know that you might have to find an alternate way back in, if you get stuck out there. So time will tell. I know it's supposed to be really nice this weekend, great temperatures, and let's see if he's no. Fishing should be good. The weather will be nice, and everybody should be able to get out there and at least have some fun. Pray for some snow, and that's really what we need. What's the preference, sun or clouds? Oof. We every year we try and figure that out. What days are we doing better on? And when's the best bite? And I can't really say that we've had one better than the other, drastically that would make me say, sun or clouds. We've had some great, midday bites when it's been bright blue sunny. I think those fish can see those baits from a long distance, and as long as you're not making any noise, and they start swimming by and seeing those tip ups swim, or the minnows swimming around the tip ups, you're going to catch some fish. Then again, on the cloudy days, it really hasn't made a difference as far as time of day. It's just been a steady bite kind of the whole time. And I think again it's because the just the spookiness. Let's see. Anyone know? So Christopher has a question. Anyone know how the east shore landings are? Quinny, let's see. Stockbridge is busted up. Any cracks or bridges out in the area mentioned above? So I can tell you this, Christopher. I know a lot of the guys tonight, just took the tree line straight back across towards Quinny, and that I haven't heard anything, bad about that. A lot of guys have been going off. Let's see. Chris asks, where's the Old Duck Inn launch located? It is, if you look on a map on Lake Poygan, you've got Boom Bay, and there's a launch there. And if you go to the south, just a little ways from Boom Bay, there's a really, really big house. It used to be the Old Duck Inn. It was a bar restaurant. But there's a big house there, and that's where the launch is. So if you, and when you watch, you want to try and just stay away from the rocks. There's a little rock island out there. When you go out, you don't, try and stay to the left and go, through the middle of the gap. You don't want to go towards those rocks. Usually there's a lot of bad ice, or it's usually a little bit softer there. So let's see. Yeah, Chris, you're welcome. I'm just going back through and seeing if we missed any other questions. Well, I guess Critter's not going to join us. Invalid link. He wants to try and get in, so let's just let's be patient with him here. Let's see. So I had a different app thing that I was using for doing live streams, and a lot of the people that I've invited back have just gone back to the same link I gave them once before. I gotta send them a new link, and I don't know if they're opening it. There we go. So I guess then people that are tuning in here, who's planning on heading out to Poygan on Saturday? Nobody's going out to Poygan? So Andy said, I have a shack set up on a weeded edge, and I was catching nice perch last week, and now the last few days it's bluegills. Do you think the perch would have moved towards shore or deeper? Is there no rhyme or reason? No, Andy, typically what happens, perch start out really shallow and will keep making their way deep. Midwinter, it's typically where the perch will go sit out over the deepest basins and just feed on redworms and bugs and whatever else they can find, picking stuff off the bottom. And then as we get closer to spring, they do basically the reverse. They'll start coming back up shallow and staging for pre-spawn. And then they'll be typically in the same shallow bays and stuff that you get them in the spring. Anthony, are they taking four-wheelers out where? They're taking four-wheelers everywhere. You can drive ATVs, Bago, Poygan, every lake that I know of around this area. Guys are able to drive ATVs and stuff on. All right, Ray's going, John, Joel, got a group, Cody will be, Jeff, Tim, Jeffrey. Man, yeah, absolutely, man. Poygan's got a great pike fishery. We've had, oh boy, we've had some pretty good ones. I think the biggest one we had was a 38. I think 38's our biggest so far this year. We've had some bigger ones on, but there's a lot of nice pike out on Poygan. People fish for them over on the west end, off of Captain's Cove. You can fish, any of the bays really, any of the inlets, and find if you can find some spots that have some of the weeds, those are great spots. Hot dogs work well. Otherwise, just bigger Goldens. But when we're out over on the main lake, um, we catch a lot of fish just on our rosy reds. Fishing for walleyes or perch, and jigging too. Catch quite a few of them on the jig rods. Do you still like to go out for whitefish on the bay? Oh, Jared, only if you clean them for me, buddy. Yeah, cold sore. Either cold sore or frostbite. I think it was actually frostbite um, from last week. It got me pretty good. Fingertips and my lip got it. Come on, Mr. Critter, where'd you go? Let's see, Wade, what leader for tip ups for Northerns? So I run uh, I guess depending on what type of bait. If we're using live bait, I'm running a 30 pound. If we're using dead bait, I'm using a 50 or 60 pound. And I like the Seagar Gold Label, really soft leaders for especially for the Goldens. It allows them to swim a lot more freely, and seems to work pretty good. Same thing though too with pike. When it comes time to people always like to use big hooks for big fish, and I'm kind of the opposite. I like small hooks for all fish. You're going to increase your hookup percentage. You're going to increase, the number of fish that you're going to get to bite, and very seldom will you lose fish. Like when we're walleye fishing, we got the number 20s. That bait is all the way down in the back of its throat and its gullet and that fatty tissue. Same thing with pike. When the pike eat a golden shiner, they'll eat it, and if they don't have any resistance with the hooks or whatnot, it's all the way down the back of the throat, and typically the hooks are right there. And you remember too is that the smaller the hook, the less damage it's going to do as far as tearing and everything else too. So just kind of remember that. Tim asked, getting any catfish? Yeah, we've been catching some cats. We've got some sturgeon, and a lot of crazy fish. Seen some gar. Haven't caught one yet this year. Had a carp on. Trying to think of what else we've had. I think that for the most part, just a lot of sturgeon. If anybody wants some good GPS waypoints for some sturgeon, private message me, and we'll see if we can't work something out. Because I can guarantee you, we are on them, or we're on them. Let's see. Terry says the tree line went off duck in last Saturday. Boy, I must have just completely missed it because I was driving all around there, and really, I guess, wasn't paying attention. Well, that's it. Well, God darn it, Critter. I'll ask him one more time. I just asked him if he's coming in. Who's ready for some warmer weather? Me, I can tell you that much. There's nothing like testing, your equipment and your clothing and everything else when it is as cold as what it's been. He's pooping. I don't know where he is. Facebook says that he's active. Don't know. Come darn it. Well, we can't get him to come on. I can call him and put him on speakerphone. No, he's screening his calls. He's pooping. No, all right. Well, sorry guys. I guess we'll just have to see if he can do a Facebook Live or something to answer your guys' questions. But I do know that they do have, the pike. Let's see, Ray says, should I put backing before braid on my? But yes, Ray, put some backing on. They do have a pike, just a pike only tournament, and then they do have the general fishing tournament. There are tickets for both, and they've got I know raffle. They've got band. I think Star 69, I believe, is playing Saturday night at Wood Eyes. So lots of things happening, but you'll have to, if you have any questions, you'll just have to call the store. And ask for Critter or Cassie, and otherwise you can call Wood Eyes too. I'm sure the people at Wood Eyes can help out. Other than that, good luck, everybody. Hope everybody has some good stories to tell, make some memories, have some fun, win some prizes, and just get out and go fish and be safe, stay dry, and make the best of what you can, I guess. We'll be out on Bago the rest of the, well, I'd see, we leave for Mexico on next Saturday night. We head down to Chicago and then we fly out on Sunday. So I am ready for a vacation and get away from the cold for a week and then come back and go hard again. Well, enjoy everybody. Cheers. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week.